So, Jacques, we want to jump in now, I think, to a question that follows up on your very lucid and helpful explanation of your idea of the control system, which is, I'll put the question this way. Do you think that the system has an interest of its own in not exposing itself? And what I mean is that we know that UAP are very elusive. They may display themselves, but they're still hard to find. They're still hard to detect. As happened with you when you tried to provoke the system, it didn't. It didn't respond until the very last minute. Could this be defensive behavior? Is it somehow an intrinsic property of the system? Or is this simply it being interactive?
Um, I can only tell you what it seems to me, what it feels like to me, having lived through, all those years, and my professors were the witnesses, were truck drivers and farmers, and people who told me about what they had seen. Um, There is one case in France that I like to quote. It happened, in the very early in the late 50s. A man who was going to his work. He was a night watchman. He was going to his work through a forest, through a clearing in a wood at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there is a man in front of him and a disc sitting in the clearing. So he stops, and the man is holding, something in his hand pointed at him, and he's afraid that that's a gun, and so he freezes. And this is a man again in a uniform, no signs, no insignia, and he says, "Am I in Germany or Italy?" Which is stupid because, for one thing, there is Switzerland in between, Germany and Italy, and furthermore, he's in Alsace, he's in France. So the man, the night watchman, says, "No, you're in France." And he says, "What time is it?" And the man looks at his watch and says, "It's 2:30." And the man out of the disc says, "You lie, it's 4 o'clock." Well, it was 2:30. So he goes back behind the disc. Presumably, he goes into the disc, but we don't know that. And the disc takes off and goes up in the sky. And that's the first indication for the witness that this was not just, some pilot who had lost his way. This was something else. You tell that story, everybody is going to laugh, and I think that story was quoted to show how stupid witnesses were, you know, and that he must have been still asleep and making up all that. Take it to the next level. Two questions, two answers. The two answers are you're wrong. You know, you're not in Alsace, and it's not 2:30. Even though you are in Alsace and it is 2:30. I think to me that sums up the whole phenomenon. What it's saying is you don't know how to think about where you are and what time it is because space and time are irrelevant. And that's now when I talk to Eric Davis, Dr. Davis, who is my number one resource in theoretical physics these days. He says, that's right. I mean, time and space are not considered as primary quantities in modern physics. They are secondary things that we can measure and we experience in our lives, but the physical phenomena go on at a different level in the form, in the quantum form, and so on, and that's where he loses me most of the time. So um, we have to be very, very, very careful about the structure of those things, and we have to take out our reaction to it. I mean, I'm delighted to know that Congress is going to pay attention to pilots who have these pictures of things that move around. Now, there is a French pilot, in the late 70s was, flying a or 80, flying a Mirage, who has spoken on the record on French television, and I can, I can, we know his name, and I can find the film. He was flying home to Dijon to his base. He didn't have any armament on his aircraft. His aircraft was a high-end um, a fighter, a Mirage, and he saw a light ahead of him, just like what was just said about presenting it to Congress. This happened many years ago. In another century, he sees this bright light. He is intrigued by the light because there is nothing on radar at that particular place, and then the thing is going around him at a very high rate of speed, making a wide curve. He does a little calculation in his head, and he says the g forces would be beyond what any human pilot would tolerate. So this, I think the exact time was 78. Um, and the thing places itself on his tail, which is of course the kill position in, aerial fight. He doesn't like that, so he puts his jet into a dive, which is difficult because he wasn't prepared to do that. He was just going home, returning the plane. And the thing circles back, comes back in front of him, and it circles around and goes on his tail a second time in the kill position again. So whatever it is understands the kill position. He dives again, and the thing goes off. This is seen from the ground by a gendarme who reports it, which is the only reason we know it, because the report from the gendarme was not classified. The report from the pilot was classified, but by then everybody knew about it, so it became known. Uh, there is nothing else to say about it. I mean, those things have been happening since the 50s. So we have. It's great that Congress is now looking at those fuzzy black and white pictures that are not pictures, by the way. They are recordings of um, of heat signatures, and everybody is treating it as if it was a picture. And again, we have, the technology here is completely fuzzy, and people are making up stories that scientists should not accept. And when is the last time science had to wait for a decision of Congress to study something? I mean, that's not the way a university works. You're doing some experiments. You in the course of those experiments, you discover the discrepancy. You study the discrepancy because it could lead to an invention or to a breakthrough or to a new theory of something. You have a patient in front of you who is dying of something that has not been recognized before. You document it. You don't call your congressman. So why are we spending all this time in Washington assuming that Congress is going to do science? This is not what we pay them for.
That's
This
a
is
fa-
not
that
what Congress does.
that's a
Congress
fantastic
makes the
point, Jacques.
laws, and the laws may or may not have anything to do with science. So we're talking, they certainly have a role in this, which is very important, but we are misunderstanding the role of the legislator.
It's
And
a it's
it's a grave mistake.
a
We should be in the lab inviting witnesses and working with them.
it's a fantastic point, Jacques, and it really affirms the value of research here.